Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Melissa Siegel and I'm a professor of migration studies. Today I'm very excited to have a special guest with me, Professor Khalid Koser, who is a professor here at Maastricht University and UNU Merit. Of course, he has a lot of other positions, a lot of other accolades. I'll put those in the description of the video. And today we're going to be talking about innovative solutions for solving the global refugee crisis. Now, of course, you might want to have some background before tackling such a tough topic. So if you're interested, check out my other videos looking at basic facts and figures on forced displacement and on why the durable solutions to the refugee crisis are not working. So in this video today, we're going to take a step forward and look at what are some of those new solutions or some innovative solutions that we can be using nowadays for going forward in this situation. So, Professor Koser, I know that you have quite a few different ideas on this. I know that you've been one of the people who've really been kind of pushing the framework in this regard. Can you just give us a bit of an idea of what do you think some of these innovative solutions are going forward?
Thanks, Melissa, and thanks for having me on the channel. I think the first thing to note is what the crisis is all about. And I think there are at least three parts of the crisis. One is that, as you know, we're not really dealing with refugees in a particularly constructive way. We're putting them in camps, they're spending long periods of time in camps. That leads to dependency, to all sorts of risks. So I think we've got to deal with the immediate challenge more constructively. Secondly, as you've indicated, we're not really finding solutions to refugees. They're stuck, they're not going home, they're not being resettled, they're not integrating. We need to move beyond that. And thirdly, of course, we're not dealing with the root causes. We're not finding ways to stop refugees having to leave their countries in the first place. Now, I think we've got to think really outside the box to try to tackle each of those challenges. In my opinion, the current infrastructure, the current framework, the current institutions are not really getting the job done. I think we need to take some risks, to do some things that some people might find uncomfortable, and to begin to think about ways that we can begin to move away from the current crisis that we have. And I can give you a few examples if you like.
Great, yes, please.
I mean, in terms of this notion of trying to deal with refugees in a more constructive way, one argument that you often hear is that camps are not the best way to protect and look after refugees. And I think the evidence is very clear that what you shouldn't be doing is putting lots of people, especially young people, in a camp situation for a long period of time. Let's think about alternatives. Might we, for example, allow refugees to leave camps and move to urban areas? Might we give refugees labour market permits so they can go and actually work legally within local labour markets? There are risks around this. I think some host states would be concerned. I think some host communities would be concerned. But again, we've got to think innovatively. Another idea that is coming out, I think, a lot at the moment is the role of the private sector. Is there a way that we can inject into camp situations entrepreneurship? Can we bring in private capital? Can we bring in private sector skills? Can we find ways that, rather than simply sitting in a dependent way, waiting for the next bag of rice or the next assistance, we can find refugees ways to use their undeniable talent and potential. Some of these people are very talented, and that talent is going to waste. And there's some interesting ideas about how the private sector, Western Union and others, there are lots of interesting examples, are beginning to think about how they can help refugees realise their potential and talent, even if they're still stuck in camps. Again, I think lots of people find that difficult. I think lots of people find it uncomfortable that you have a private sector actor whose bottom line is money and making a profit, working on a humanitarian issue. But it's something I think we have to overcome if we're going to try to find solutions.
And I think one of the things that you're also thinking of are kind of new solutions to the current durable solutions, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? Maybe first, what are the current durable solutions? You mentioned them very quickly, and I talk about them in a previous video, but just for people who haven't had a look at those other videos.
Great, thanks. The second crisis, I suppose, is trying to make durable solutions work. At the moment, we have lots of refugees, largely in camps, with no foreseeable future for them. There are three solutions that we've always learnt about. One is local integration, which means that you settle permanently in the country where you've moved to. Secondly, third country resettlement. You all know, given your citizenship, a few countries in the world do resettle people from refugee camps and let them live there permanently. Examples will be Australia and New Zealand and Canada and the US and several others. And the third, and I think the biggest and most important solution, is voluntary repatriation. That people should be able to go home on a voluntary basis, go home to the country from which they've come. Now, I think there are two parts of this challenge. One is that those solutions are not working. And secondly, we need to think about new solutions. So the first question is, what can we do to make these solutions work more effectively? And there's some interesting ideas coming up. For example, might we begin to do some partnering? Where, for example, Canada would agree to resettle 100 refugees, if at the same time Lebanon would agree to integrate locally 100 refugees, if at the same time Syria would agree to take back 100 refugees? Can we begin to leverage solutions by different countries taking different parts? Might we think about breaking this down into effectively bite-sized chunks? I always think about this, Melissa. We're talking about 20 million people. Now, that's a significant number, but it shouldn't be an insurmountable problem. We're not talking about the challenges of poverty or gender equality, or, we're not talking about billions of people facing challenges. Surely, with all of the technological ability and the capacity we have in the world today, we should be able to cope with 20 million people. Another idea that's coming up is, might you find a way to break that 20 million people into bite-sized chunks? Might you find an arrangement whereby 200 countries in the world, between them, can share out this responsibility? It's the so-called burden-sharing mechanism. Again, lots of controversies around it. It's difficult to achieve. But surely we, as a 21st century global citizenship, global partnership, should be able to find a way to deal with a mere 20 million people. And again, repatriation, I think we need to be much more inventive. I think lots of people would go home if they had the safety net that if they fail when they go home, they can come back again. So counterintuitively, I think if you gave people citizenship, if you gave people permits, if you gave people the right to labour market access in countries where they're currently refugees, they would then take the risk of going home. It's counterintuitive, but I think you could do it.
But it's because they have a safety net.
Absolutely. So again, these are difficult questions. They challenge our existing norms and understandings. They'll make lots of people uncomfortable, but I think we've just got to think more broadly and more ambitiously if we're going to find solutions.
So then the big elephant in the room for the current durable solutions, but even some of the solutions you're talking about now, is political will. So how do you suggest that we address political will?
Well, I think after, and we don't want to bore our colleagues with, our audience with technical details, but we do have the Global Compact on Refugees, as you know, that came out last year, which was an effort to mobilise political will, not just amongst governments, but also the private sector and civil society around the refugees. And I think largely it's worked. I think, if there's anything positive out of the terrible Syrian refugee crisis, it's that people are beginning to sit up and understand that there is a refugee crisis out there, and we should be able to find ways to deal with it. And I think more and more governments are recognising that we need to find ways to solve these problems and to help these people. So political will is rising, at least at a kind of global, nominal level. The challenge comes when you ask specific countries to do specific things. And if you ask the government of, let's say, Jordan or Lebanon or Turkey, who are hosting millions and millions of refugees, what they're willing to do, their answer not unreasonably would be, what are you willing to do?
Exactly.
Don't come to me asking me to integrate 1 million people when some of the countries in the part of the world that we're speaking in at the moment are reluctant to take just a few thousand. So I think we've got to find ways that we can demonstrate that we are willing to partner and share the so-called burden in order to try to incentivise other countries to make a difference as well.
Yeah, thank you. Well, it's still clear that there are plenty of challenges ahead, but I hope that this has given our audience, our viewers, just a taste of some of the other possibilities that are out there. Again, if you're interested, check out the other videos on my channel that also talk about forced migration, refugees, and durable solutions. Again, thank you so much, Khalid, for being here.
Thank you.
If you like this video, please like and subscribe to my channel. And if you have any other questions, put them in the comments and we'll try to address them. See you next time.